Hi, have you taken a look yet at the capstone project instructions? I hope you have. I'm sort of hoping and expecting that your initial response will be, "Wow, that's cool," and "Oh shit." That's actually how a lot of life is. Those two things. Wow, that's cool, and "Oh shit." So the instructions are detailed because I'm trying to help you. You know, there are so many things in life where it's like really read the instructions and you can be pretty darn sure you'll succeed. Like if you're making a cake, a recipe for a cake, really read that recipe. Chances are it will come out all right. There are other things, that in life that it's not like that. There's no recipe. So please read the recipe carefully and send me questions about it because it gives you an overview of why we're doing this, how you should go about it, how to proceed. I'm going to add on to that a little bit. So it's broken down into steps, and you start by visiting a museum or public exhibition space. And I'm recommending that, if you can do it, your best bet is the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco. That's because it is a world-class collection and it is a cornucopia of options, right? It is an entire museum dedicated to Asian art, spanning from Central Asia to East Asia. And there is so much to draw your attention. It goes from ancient times to the present. Here on their homepage, they're showing a video installation display, this immersive experience. So they've got artists working today who are the newest in a long lineage, but you can also see some of the ancient ritual vessels from China that we've just been studying. So a museum will generally have a tab for exhibitions, what's on view, which are often temporary exhibitions, right? So they're looking at a number of different ones are highlighted here. And then they'll often have a tab for collections, their permanent collection, what they own. And so if you scroll down to their collections, they have this in the galleries. You can see preliminarily what kinds of things are in their gallery collection. So for instance, you could be going to China and see their China collection, which includes jade, treasury, ritual bronzes, all the things we've been studying about. But you could also go to their South Asia on the third floor, to the Persian world and West Asia. So you will be confronted with an incredible cornucopia of options. And you'll have to think about what fascinates you. It's going to be a little overwhelming if you go to a place like the Asian Art Museum. There's so much wonderful material. And you'll have to think, what do I really want to look at carefully, because you want to do a very systematic, close examination, a formal and physical analysis. And then also think, well, how can I tie that to actual historical threads that we looked at in modules or are looking at in upcoming modules? And, so certainly this splendid bronze certainly fits into our discussion of the arts of the tomb in China. But interestingly, if you go to the temporary exhibition page, you might see a contemporary artist like Zheng Chongbin, I Look for the Sky, who is based in Marin, who's local, who's a California artist. Hold on. And so you'll see that the artist is interested in light and in space, and this is very much a 21st century artwork. But the artist also studied Chinese figurative painting at the China Academy of Art, and certainly this installation here is in dialogue with the grand tradition of Chinese landscape painting, in which immense space, a space that immerses the viewer, is the dominant interest, and this is just expressed in a new, more 21st century medium. So a major part of our studies of painting, as it grows into kind of a grand tradition by the Northern Song dynasty, a big part of that is looking at how an open space, how the artist seeks to activate a relationship to space that is dynamic, that is fluid, that seems to be shifting. And that is something that is certainly part of this installation. So if you choose not to go to the Asian Art Museum for whatever reason, there are other options. A good one is the Berkeley Art Museum, which is also the PFA, the Pacific Film Archive. What you should know, though, is that that is a heterogeneous museum, meaning it's a museum that's mostly dedicated to contemporary art from all sorts of places, and it is not Asia specific, and it is not going back in time to the ancient traditions. It is not going back to the Song Dynasty. It is really dealing with our world today in the 21st century. So Rosie Lee Tompkins, who's an amazing artist, is not a good choice because you can't really firmly and solidly connect her to what you're learning about the traditions of art in Asia. There's amazing films, but we're not really dealing with kind of contemporary films. So you have to rein it in a little bit. A good choice might be Kei Sekamachi's Geometries. She is a Japanese-American artist who is working in both a kind of a language of art that's related to contemporary art, avant-garde art in the West, and also elements of Japanese cultural tradition. So she could be very interesting, and there's lots on the website that the museum provides to kind of make for a rich exploration. So for instance, you can find resources like an article in which she's interviewed in conjunction with this exhibition. So part of what you want to think about is timing, right? That's the great thing about going to a museum, is that it actually makes your writing easier, because you should go to the museum and you should make copious notes in person, and they could be digital audio, they could be handwritten, but they should be direct observations of what you're seeing, the same way you did with the food exercise. So it makes it easier to write because you really have something to kind of push against, to kind of give you a focus, and you don't have to get lost in kind of your own mind. You can stay focused on the object, but you do have to plan ahead, right? So people are emailing and kind of wondering about when they're going to go to the museum, what's the best time. So the first piece of your work that's due, and it's due on July 19th, is the annotated bibliography, which is not your finished paper. It exists to give you a little kind of a rough start on moving toward that paper by making sure that at that point you have to have gone to the museum, decided on your artwork, so you can identify the artwork as title, artist name, materials used, date made, and then you have to find some sources to help you build your ideas about that artwork, what you think is important to say in terms of its social and historical context, and then to get a little peer feedback from peers, some reviews from peers. So that means the last possible moment that you can go to the museum is really July 18th, and that's pushing it. That's the day before this is due, because you would have to choose your artwork at the museum, make your notes, and then come home and get some sources going, or find some sources at the museum website. So think about that, because this is not right around the corner, but it's coming up soon enough, and you want to be able to plan for when is the museum closed, when is it realistic for you to get there, etc. And if you need more help ironing out these wrinkles, give me an email and we'll set up a Zoom or a live chat.